You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All righty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
What is going on, guys? So we're to the playoffs. We're here. We are to the path to the ship. So congratulations to everyone who is en route to a potential fantasy championship. To those of you who are tuning in who did not make the cut, that's okay. Like, you can still participate in DFS. You could do a playoff eliminator. You could do kind of like a small 6-man playoff league with the teams that are going to make it into the NFL playoffs, and kind of do a fantasy league that way for a few weeks. Like, there's plenty of options to get your fix. And you can always tune in to us and check us out, because I think we're pretty cool, guys. So we went 3 for 3 getting into the home league.
Mm-hmm.
So, kudos to the group. So we're on the right path there. And the bad thing is, all 3 of us are on the same side of the bracket. So only one of the 3 of us is going to emerge, potentially. I mean, I guess there's a possibility all 3 of us get eliminated by next Sunday.
It's true. That is an option. One thing we can say for sure is that one of the 3 of us will be in the semifinals for the championship.
Yes.
Like, that's written in, because Alex and I are facing each other in the first round here, and Kevin's got Keith in the first round there. But I do find it humorous that 3 out of the top 4 scorers in the league are all on the same side of the bracket, and it
just goes to show you how much of a roller coaster we have been riding this year when it comes to some of these scores. For me, it's been feast or famine. Legitimately, that's been what my season has been defined as. I think I'm the 3rd highest scorer, or 3rd or 4th highest scorer in this league. And I am the 7th ranked team. Like, I'm 7-7. That's how bad it's been for me. In the home league, is that I've either put up, top 3 scoring week, or just absolutely nothing. And it's not that I'm getting scored on a ton, which, you can't help how much other people score against you. But it has been just a feast or famine year for me. But I will say what's kind of fun is there are 3 leagues that I care about. There's the home league, there's my high school league, and then there's my work league. And I've qualified for the postseason in all 3 leagues. And I don't know that that's ever happened before. And in the work league, I had to overcome selecting Christian McCaffrey first overall to make the playoffs in that league. So I feel pretty proud of that accomplishment, that I got 3 weeks of Christian McCaffrey, I think, or 2.5 weeks of Christian McCaffrey, and I still made the playoffs in that league. I'm very, very proud of that.
There you go.
Funny thing, I saw a stat earlier today, and didn't do enough research to it, so I'm not taking it at its face value. But I did see a deal out there that there was about 1% of all teams that played this season for fantasy were went over during the regular season. And out of those teams, Christian McCaffrey was the most rostered player on those. So, Again, unverified stats, but an interesting post nonetheless.
Easy to see how that could be the issue, because you basically, if you're in a 12-team league, and the work league is not 12, I think it's 10. But if you're in a 12-team league, you take Christian McCaffrey overall, you're not picking again until another 23 players have come off the board. And that's a significant disadvantage. So now that your first player, who you thought was going to be your bell cow, your first player is now the 24th and 25th best players theoretically in the draft. And that's hard to overcome.
Yep. I had a few best ball drafts like that it was tough to navigate through, especially when you can't add waivers and all of that. So some of those get a little tough.
What you got? Yeah.
No, exactly. Just few of them I had enough boom late round picks that hit, and some of them I didn't, and very mixed bag on those for sure. So I feel your pain. Alrighty. Any other kind of news, notes, thoughts we want to hit up before we start jumping into some of the chat and the comments?
No, let's go ahead and jump on in. We know what we're tasked with, right? Provide information to win in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. Is that regular
Live in
season?
advance.
Regular season over. It's the march to cash and trophies from here on out. 3 weeks gets the job done. Binkin over on YouTube saying first into
Boy.
some waves. Great job. Hopefully Binkin's also making waves in his playoffs here. Mario saying that he's second in there. I like the fact we got folks competing to get into first into the chat, so that's awesome. Mario saying good evening. Last show shared how they dropped Debo for Braylon Allen and ended up working out for them. They feel bad for the team that picked up Debo. Yeah.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah, don't feel bad. But I ended up in the home league just because it was by Mageddon in week 14, which that's a rant I need to go on before we get to any more comments. I'll finish my thought on this and then I'll get on that rant. But I had to play
later.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to play Debo Samuel in my super flex spot because of the injuries at quarterback and trades that I had made. And the fact that my other quarterback, CJ Stroud, was one of the 6 teams that was on a bye in week 14. The NFL has got to figure something out. We cannot have 6 teams. Was it 6, Derek? Is that
yes?
6 teams on bye in week 14. In my high school league, our playoffs are 2-week playoffs. We started the playoffs last week while 6 teams were on a bye. Like that's not.
That's bad commissioner management right there.
Look, I'll
agreed.
tell you what, probably, but if you want to have a 2-week playoff system and not go to week 18 where nothing matters, then this is what you're faced with. I think
the semis really need to be 2 weeks.
I think bad commissioner management is the NFL having 6 teams play 13 weeks of football before getting their bye. I think that's bad commissioner management. I think that the NFL, with all of their international games, their Thursday night games, has screwed this schedule up so badly that you have teams playing 13 games before they get their bye. There should be no more than 4 teams on a bye in any given week, right? That's how it should be. You have buys should run between week 6 and week 12. You should have everybody get their bye within that time frame, and that way you don't have anybody playing more than 12 weeks in a row without a bye, right? If your buys at week 6, you're only playing 11 straight games, right? 11 weeks. You don't have a disproportionate amount of games to buy to games. That should be in the essence of fairness and equity for the NFL. And what I imagine the CBA is going to include, if not a double bye, then buys need to happen between a certain window, and that is when those have to be. And you should not have more than 4 teams at any given time on a bye.
I can understand the rant, but at the same time, I can also see the other side of that. Like it's the schedule was out before before fantasy ever drafted.
Sure, whatever. Right? That's fine. I get that.
Look, you know what that looks like and adjust accordingly.
I get that. What has to change is how we do our playoffs in this 8-team league that I'm in with high school buddies, just trying to keep alive a little bit of communication from our past. I get that. That's what it is. I understand that this rant will fall on deaf ears to the multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that is the NFL. Golly, don't you think that a little bit of equity and fairness of week 6 to week 12, we can get everybody to get their buy-in? We can have games or we can have weeks where we don't have a third of the league sitting out. Like what that make it happen.
So there's a third of the league would be about 11 teams on bye. Just saying. But beside that
So I'm
point,
going to take your rant and I'm going to apply it to dollars and cents. The gambling community within the NFL is like a $3.2 billion fund. If fantasy football or gambling in general, and the NFL has embraced gambling from its patrons, not its players. Don't do that.
correct.
But from the people who tune in, right? The people who support the NFL, who pay for tickets and concessions and apparel, if that is hurting them and their experience, that is why you should change it. Because your consumer base needs it. And it doesn't matter the reason, but the consumer base needs it.
Right.
It just happens to be a fantasy football consumer base. And damn it, week 14 buys are stupid.
Yes. I would agree, right? Like with the fact that the week 14, the bye, yada, it's not like there wasn't plenty of opportunity to squeeze these buys in, even running them through week 12, right? There's 6 teams on bye week 14. Only 2 teams had a bye on week 7. No teams had a bye in week 8. Only 2 teams had a bye in week 9. Like that would have been very easy to maneuver that, to have 2 teams, 2 teams added to week 7 or 2 teams added to week 9 and 4 teams on week 8, and boom, we can eliminate week 14. And oh, by the way, you could also have moved 2 teams from week 12 into the other one of those weeks that you didn't fill up with 4 teams, and then it would have literally had no teams more than 4 teams on bye at any given week, and that would have literally run buys from week 5 through about week 12. So problem solved. But like I said, I don't think that anybody's tuning into this one to hear our rant, and there's no decision makers that are going to hear that.
Certainly not in favor of me and 7 of my high school buddies.
There you go. Alrighty. So any other thoughts on this?
All that to say, Deebo Samuel did terribly in my super flex last week, and I'll be happy to replace him and put him back on the bench.
Okay.
So here's a bit of trivia that I'm going to lean on and through draft season next year. So I'm going to hold on to this one for a little while. When was the last time Deebo Samuel saw double-digit targets in a football game?
Not sure, because he's had some decent weeks this year. I've, obviously tracked him because he's on my roster, but I don't know. He gets a lot of the supplement with the carries, right? Like that's where he does a lot of his damage.
Week 2.
Week 2.
Week 2. Since Deebo Samuel has seen double-digit targets. That is without Christian McCaffrey. That is without Brandon Ayuk. That is the team losing games and needing to come back from behind.
No.
This has been my fundamental problem about all the Deebo Samuel apologists. Where you at now? Where you at now? Where is your all-pro, best wide receiver in the draft class guy? He is getting 5 to 6 targets a week, maybe 7.
When we had, go ahead.
No, he's not an alpha.
No.
He's not an alpha. He's a good beta, guys. Like, he's a good number 2. He's gimmicky. He's gadgetry. Like, yes, he's built like an X, but he plays like a Z. Like, he is not a number 1 receiver in fantasy football. Now, he was drafted on the verge of that, right? I mean, he's right there kind of on the edge, him and Ayuk both. Ayuk got injured. You can't control that. But before he got injured, he played like a steaming pile of dog poo because he was more focused on his contract. Rightfully so. Get your money. Okay, fine. Like, that is what it is, but it did affect his play on the field. He was not the same player coming back after missing the preseason as he was last year. CeeDee Lamb managed to avert that, right? Now, Dallas doesn't have any other options either, but CeeDee Lamb's posting numbers.
Right.
So Brandon Ayuk, along with Jaden Reed, is definitely on my do not draft list going forward. Like, I am not messing with this. Inconsistencies, injuries, not seeing enough volume to support the draft position that he's inevitably going to go in again, because we're going to get into August and everyone's going to forget that Deebo Samuel saw one game in 2024 for the fantasy football regular season with double-digit targets. Hope is not a strategy. And with Deebo, you are hoping he breaks a 50-yarder for a touchdown. That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
Hope is not a strategy. It's an excuse. I am not drafting Deebo going forward.
Well, and I remember when some of this question was posed up and we were talking about it, right? Like this one came through on the Friday show, I believe. And we were looking at this one, and it was deep diving too, that Deebo's big standout season at the position came because he had 10 rushing touchdowns. Right. And that's where a lot of his a lot of his value for fantasy has come through is the rushing touchdowns on that, because even like last year he had 5 rushing touchdowns. This season, that's just not the case, right? They are not utilizing that at all. So
Which is crazy because McCaffrey's been injured all season.
Right.
Like, if there was going to be a season that, if you said coming into the season, all right, Christian McCaffrey is going to get in 2 games this season. 2, that's it. Where are you putting Deebo? Like, I think most people would think, oh, well, he's going to get some rushing work. Like, even if it's not a ton, he'll get some red zone carries. You bake in 5 or 6 touchdowns. Maybe you get more if you get lucky. And then you throw in, oh, by the way, Ayuk goes down too. Oh, like, I get it. In a blind case study, Deebo Samuel should have been a top 10 wide receiver.
Top 5, realistically, like off
Yes.
of what you're describing there, and what we
Absolutely,
would
Derek.
expect. Yeah.
Absolutely. The blind case study. This guy is without his star running back and his counterpart at wide receiver. He is the only real show in town.
And by the way, the quarterback's
good
healthy.
tight end. Yeah, and the quarterback is high completion, low risk, very consistent.
Right. And he's maintained his health most of the season.
Like,
I think he missed a game here or there, but like for the most part, that hasn't been an issue.
Just to play devil's advocate here, I totally agree with you. Deebo Samuel's been not great. He's been on my bench most of the year, and only
this
used.
isn't an Alex problem. Like, you had
No,
to
I know.
somebody in your super flex. I'm just
Right,
saying.
right. But I'm with you on not touching him with 1,000-foot pole next year. But the argument could be made that because Christian McCaffrey is out, because Brandon Ayuk is out, because Brock Purdy doesn't have those weapons, defenses are able to key in on Deebo Samuel and prevent him from ripping them and beating them.
Okay. So why can't they do that with CeeDee Lamb?
But
there's a group of people out there until last year when CD blew up that swore Deebo was better than CD. Swore he was better than CD.
I will say that is the
How come Garrett Wilson could do it with Zach Wilson last year? But Deebo can't figure it out with Brock Purdy. Like, I understand you're trying to be devil's advocate, but I was ready for this one. I am tuned up. Like, Deebo Samuel is not an elite wide receiver.
Kevin came with receipts.
I mean, realistically, at this point, when you look at it, there's 4 guys in the league that, at this point, I'd say pretty confident there's about 4 guys in the league, that maybe 5, that we can really kind of put in that the quarterback, that they just have the ability to find a way to get open regardless of who's throwing the ball and still produce for fantasy.
Oh, I don't know that there's 5.
Okay.
I would tell you, we've seen Garrett Wilson can.
Yeah.
He did it with Zach Wilson.
Justin Jefferson is quarterback proof.
Jefferson. I'd tell you Jamar Chase is quarterback proof. He did it with Browning last year when Burrow went down.
Yep.
Okay, I'll give you that.
CD Lamb's in there.
See, Cooper Rush, he's doing it right now.
Yep. Like as much as we don't want to be like, because we're comparing it to last year. CD
Sure,
Lamb's the number
sure.
4 wide receiver for fantasy at this point in the season. Like, and I would even
Who
argue
wasn't quarterback proof? Tyreek Hill.
Did Tyreek ever have a quarterback, though?
Well, he was putting up numbers with Tua. Tua goes away. Tyreek is gone.
But that's what I mean. Like,
Right.
was there an actual quarterback on Miami's roster when Tua went down?
Well, he's just not quarterback proof. That's all.
I could also
Sam
make the,
Bradford was seeing ghosts and has turned into like a world beater, right? Like
That's Darnold. Bradford retired.
that's sorry, you're right.
Yes.
Pardon me. Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts. Probably the ghost of Sam Bradford. Probably the ghost of Sam Bradford's knee, which is somewhere in between Philadelphia and Oklahoma. That he made Justin Jefferson like there was no skipping a beat there.
right.
Tyreek Hill suffered badly when Tua was
And one of those two that I think with the Tyreek side of it, you could argue that the wrist is more of an issue than anybody's let on all season.
He also wasn't getting targets though either. Like I mean,
So-
it sucked.
I mean, there's only
Just
so much that you can do
Yeah.
too when you're a guy that gets downfield and the quarterback can't get the ball to you, right? Like there is some of that issue, but I mean, there's only about 4 or 5 guys that I could stand here and I'd stand on the soapbox and make the argument.
Mike
Yeah.
Evans.
Yeah, I would see that as
Mike
well.
Evans has been a 1,000-yard receiver every year. That has had 9 different quarterbacks every year.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's done it with Winston. He did it with Brady. He's done it with Baker now. I mean,
Didn't he do it
I know
with
I'm missing
Patrick
one
too?
in there. What's that?
It's magic.
Didn't you have some Fitz magic in there too?
Sure
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah, had some Fitz magic in there. Yeah. So I mean,
Although
his career, he's at the twilight of his career, right? Like, there's not many years of Mike Evans left. He is ultimately quarterback proof.
Yeah. He really
1,000 yards a season, and you're averaging 8.5 touchdowns a year.
I think this season though is the season we don't see the
He can do it. I bet he does it.
and he's 410 yards away, right?
$5 friendly bet. I bet he does it.
I bet you they force feed the crap out of him over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, maybe.
If I have him and I'm in the playoffs, oh my God, I'm licking my chops. Like, I'm
Right.
just licking my chops. Like, please, 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 please.
That's me. That's
So.
me. On virtually every team, I have Mike Evans. And
No.
man, am I hoping that pays off in a big way.
I wonder why. It must be because one of your co-hosts pumped the shit out of that one right before draft season.
Well, I'll tell you what, it wasn't via draft in the home league. That was via trade.
I know. Suckered Craig into that one.
I got him good.
Yeah. All righty.
All right, moving on.
Let's move on.
There's our soapbox.
Yep, we dove down that one
That
pretty
was
good.
a hell of a rabbit hole we decided to go down there.
All right.
Oh, sorry. That's my bad.
Terrence over on YouTube asking Cup or Adams.
Cooper Cup.
Cup this week.
Unanimous. Terrence asking Commanders, Broncos, or the Eagles.
Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
Broncos have the Colts with maybe Anthony Richardson. Like
I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care who you put up there.
Commanders are in New Orleans.
If the
And,
Commanders were
Derek
at home, I
Carr.
probably would take the Commanders.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
no Derek Carr, no Chris Olave, no Taysom Hill. Like, there's a good chance I might take the Commanders if they're at home, but the Broncos get the edge because they're at home. It's
and the
not
Eagles are playing Pittsburgh, and that is not an easy out. That Pittsburgh team is tough.
No. That
Right.
game, I think that game could be really interesting. It'd be a really gritty game, I think, but I think
it's
there's
probably low
there's gonna be
scoring.
a lot of it'll be entertaining though. A lot of playoff caliber football right there.
That's two a 10 win team and an 11-win team going at each other. That's good. We got some really good matchups this week.
Yeah,
We got some terrible ones, but we got some good ones too.
absolutely. Terrence over on YouTube asking Lutz, Reichart, Tucker, or the Kansas City kicker.
Record.
What?
The cosine.
Sure.
He's
Give
in
me
a dome.
Give me whoever's
He's in a
playing
dome.
inside. Yeah. Give me whoever's playing inside.
Yeah, I got you, Alex. Record.
Alrighty, Master Vader over on YouTube asking, "Good evening. Choose two between Brian Thomas Jr., Jalen Waddle, and was that Jonnu Smith and Metcalf, I believe."
Well, I like Johnny Smith, man. The dude's been pumping out points. I don't know if that's what he's asking for.
I say it's probably shaping up where it's a flex play, and you want to play tight end flex.
Johnny Smith has been really good over the last couple. He had not so great of a week last week, but man, has he been putting up points.
Unless it's Jackson Smith.
Oh, if it's Jackson Smith and
Jigba,
that changes that for sure for me.
If Metcalf's playing, you don't take Smith and Jigba. If Metcalf is not playing, you still play him.
Yes,
I am not taking. I am process of elimination. I am not picking Brian Thomas Jr. because he's playing the Jets. Pass defense is something that the Jets do really, really well, and I am not afraid of Mac Jones if I'm New York. So Brian Thomas Jr. because of their matchup is out. Jalen Waddle, I'm not trusting that in the fantasy playoffs. Out. Nope. So you are stuck with Smith and Metcalf. So best of luck to you.
Yep.
Does that change if it is Jackson Smith, Jigba, and Metcalf, and you're wanting to play two guys in the same team?
I still think your odds are better with those two than with either of the other two supplementing.
I think Seattle has a favorable matchup too.
Okay. All right.
At home against Green Bay Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw Detroit put up 30.
Yeah.
So, Terrence over on YouTube, Ertz or Ferguson?
Give me.
I like Ertz.
Give me Fergie against Carolina.
Yeah, it's close for me. I lean the Ertz side of it.
They're right next to each other.
The Cowboys are one loss away from imploding, and Carolina might hand the Cowboys that loss. But until they have that one additional loss, I'm banking on that team still having full effort. So,
man, could you imagine utter meltdown in Dallas on Monday if they lose to Carolina?
Carolina's been better the last 3 weeks. They've been competitive. They've not been winning games, but Carolina has been competitive and giving teams much more difficulty than what they did the previous 8 weeks.
But if Dallas loses to Carolina this weekend, Mike McCarthy's key card isn't even going to let him get into the locker room after the game.
That's all right. Cowboys need a new head coach anyway. Get rid of Zimmer. Get rid of McCarthy. Start it over. Let's see what you got.
All right. I like it.
Bring on the next young up-and-coming head coach. Like, at this point, the old retread coach is not working for the Cowboys. It has not done anything.
Belichick to North Carolina? Sorry.
Belichick would not go to Dallas.
No, that's because he's going to North Carolina.
So, I mean, we saw Saban sign with the Dolphins for 2 days before he went to Alabama. Why couldn't Belichick sign for 2 days before he went to Dallas?
That happens.
True.
So, no. Like I said, Fergie for me, and Dallas will have a whole new coaching staff next year. It's okay.
All righty. I lean on the Ertz side there. Alex, which side were you on?
I'm on the Ertz side, but I mean, I don't think you go wrong with either guy.
Yeah, it's coin flip, but I just like Washington's output better. Wandeer over on YouTube saying, "Is it crazy to start Rico Dwaddle over AJ Brown? I think he puts up similar points against Panthers, and the Steelers D is tough."
No, it's not crazy.
No.
Go ahead and start Rico.
Yeah,
he's been putting up.
AJ Brown has disappeared lately. Like it has not been consistent. The Eagles are relying heavily on Saquon, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that does come at the sacrifice of some of these deep shots to AJ Brown. And And Jalen Hurts he's maturing as a quarterback, right? Like he's not forcing the ball into one specific guy anymore. He's using the tight end more. He's able to check it down to Saquon and feeling comfortable with that. The running game's amazing, and Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are both healthy. Like the Eagles have a full complement of offensive weapons. And that's okay. Like it's good for the Eagles. It's not great for fantasy football right now. Unless you have Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley, I'm fading the rest of the Eagles because it is a little bit of a, Russian roulette at the moment. So take Rico. His numbers in the last 3 weeks would have been better than AJ Brown's. And the Cowboys, for the time being, again, still have some fight left in them. So I like the Carolina matchup. Utilize that.
Yep.
Right.
Cosign.
Cosign. Roy, over on YouTube, happy holidays. PPR, Debo or Ridley, Knicks, Caleb or Love. Let's go with the wide receivers here. And for me, it's Ridley.
Ridley.
Yeah, Ridley.
Yep. It'd be kind of weird if on that whole diatribe we went on earlier in the show to then be like, it's Debo.
Actually,
No, it's Ridley, and that sounds like it's unanimous. Next question would be Knicks, Caleb, or Love. Which QB you rolling with this week?
Man, Bo Nix. God, you would not have caught me. In August, I would not have been saying
in September. You wouldn't have caught me saying that.
Also that, but man, has he been the connection that he has with Cortland Sutton, the way that this offense is moving the football right now. I say the connection with Cortland Sutton, but literally anybody that's catching passes in Denver is catching them right now, and it is all to the benefit of Bo Nix. So Bo Nix is who I would ride the rest of the way.
Yeah, I would agree. Right, like I do remember some of the comments that we were getting on some of those waiver wire videos when we started pumping the Bo Nix. Like this should be the guy that you're adding off the waiver wires and putting on your fantasy roster if nothing else as a stash. Like certainly seems to have kind of come full circle on that one. So very fun there. Alrighty. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nope.
Michael over on YouTube, should I drop Debo? Was thinking about dropping him for a second defense, have the Chargers want to claim either the Commanders or the second choice of the Ravens, or even getting getting Palmer, Vele. They have Ladd, St. Brown, and Thielen.
I actually let's parse this out real quick because I want to put up the Vele versus Palmer debate. Where are you guys at with that? Because I don't know. I legitimately don't have I don't have a lean one way or the other right now.
Is it Joshua Palmer from the Chargers?
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing it as.
That's what I'm seeing it as. Yeah.
Vele. Palmer's irrelevant as soon as Ladd McConkey's healthy.
Correct. And since you already have Ladd McConkey on your deal, like at that point, it's a handcuff that you're playing.
And it's dangerous if Justin Herbert's going to miss next week because of an injury.
Right.
So,
and Vele
if that's where you're going,
seeing some semblance of regularity and volume, right? It's not great, but he is seeing the football thrown his direction.
Yeah, I mean it's there, it's starting to pick up, but I mean realistically, you're talking about two guys that are wide receiver fives,
right,
out there for your roster. So, that's kind of where I'm at. Is it's take your pick on wide receiver 5 if you have a strong preference for that. I'd probably lean Vele myself, but I don't necessarily have a problem with moving off of Debo and picking up a another player there.
I don't think you have an improvement going if dropping Debo and picking up Josh Palmer or Vele. I know that we railed on Debo, but
right. I don't know that's
still better than those two.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Now going for a second defense.
I mean, I could see if you wanted to pick up, and probably between the two, I would pick up Baltimore's defense since they've got the Giants this week, and
Baltimore's
that's a
really friendly, I think, end of schedule.
So, I mean, I wouldn't mind that one. Also, wouldn't mind the Commanders against New Orleans without Derek Carr or that. But at that point, I'm picking that up so I don't have to drop the Chargers to come back and try and pick the Chargers up because I want the Chargers rest of season over those guys. But that's just kind of where I'm at. Any other thoughts on this particular one?
I would grab Vele instead of Debo and just call it good. I mean, if you're gonna drop Debo, get a wide receiver.
All righty.
You have the Chargers. You're fine.
Fair enough. Swaggy over on YouTube saying start, sit, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. There it is.
Flex down. There you go.
There we go. Okay, so Swaggy and the roster is Brian Robinson Jr., Pollard, Rashad White, Stevenson, Garendo, Lamb, Thielen, Amari Cooper at wide receiver. Love the channel. Keep it up.
Thanks, Swaggy.
So, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex.
I like Rashad White and Stevenson as my 2 running backs.
Huh. That's your final answer?
You taking Garendo?
The foot sprain bothers me about Garendo a little bit.
Yeah,
honestly, like Tony Pollard's been playing well here the last couple weeks, so I feel decent about Pollard. And Brian Robinson Jr. sees the rock when he's healthy and in the game.
Yeah,
he is seeing the rock a ton. So there's no Austin Eckler there. I'm not worried about Chris. Was it Rodriguez? I'm not worried about him. So I like B-Rob. Like, I don't know. The Pats got to be packing it in, man. What do they have to play for? Like,
well, I just think they're trying to run the wheels off of Stevenson.
they could. I guess
I'll tell you what.
It is Brian, right? Not Bijan. Like if it's Bijan, it's a no-brainer.
It's B-Rob Jr. So B-Rob Jr. would be Brian Robinson Jr.
So here's why I like Rashad White.
I don't like Rashad White because that Chargers matchup. No, thank you against that.
But I like it because Bucky Irving's got a questionable designation next to him, so I think it's his backfield.
Okay, I'd rather play Ramondre Stevenson, who's got that backfield to himself against Arizona.
So that's my 2.
So, which I can see that, right? Like, there's nobody challenging Pollard for touches in that backfield in Tennessee. And I'm with you, Kevin. I think that's a better matchup there. He's got Cincinnati. We just saw Rico Dwaddle go well over 100 yards on the ground against Cincy. I think we see that similar thing happen there again. And then I like the fact that with Brian Robinson Jr., when he's in, we see touches on that one. Wouldn't surprise me to see him get 17, 18 carries on this one and be close to 100 yards and potentially a touchdown. So that's the way I'm leaning on the running back side of it. Wide receivers, Thielen, Lamb, Amari Cooper. Which way are you leaning here?
Lamb.
Yeah,
Correct.
Lamb for sure. And I think I lean Thielen.
Of course you do.
Well, but here's why. Because even with Josh Allen going bananas last week, what did Amari Cooper do? It was Khalil Shakir, right? It wasn't Amari Cooper that was seeing that volume. So is Josh Allen comfortable with Amari Cooper? I know that Adam Thielen's going to see some love from Bryce Young. So, yeah, give me Lamb and give me Thielen.
I agree.
I think I'm there with you as well, right? Like, I don't like that Buffalo at Detroit matchup.
It's also really difficult, yeah.
Right. I mean, and even with Detroit's banged up defense that they had out there, they managed to do a good job, limiting a lot of defensive or a lot of offensive weapons there, a la Jaden Reed and a goose egg. I still got to pick one flex out of all of the above. Which way are you leaning on the flex, guys?
So who are you going for your running back?
I'm going B-Rob Pollard. Lamb and Thielen is who I've got. And then I'd probably lean on the...
You'd go Stevenson, you suppose?
Yeah, I think I'd probably lean on Stevenson at that point.
Yeah, Cousin.
You've talked me into it.
Okay, awesome. There you go, Swaggy. It took a little while for us to get there, but that's how we would rock and roll that one. Derek over on YouTube saying, sup, guys. Full point PPR, start 2, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Jaden Reed, Khalil Shakir, and Jamison Williams.
Wilson and Higgins.
Yeah, is Wilson healthy? He's healthy, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything come out on that one.
Okay.
And as much as it pains me to say it, because I don't know, the T. Higgins side of it, the quiet games that we've been getting are more in my mind there, but I think that's the way to go as well.
Higgins and Wilson.
Yep. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nope, not even close for me.
Okay. Binkin saying Big King doo-doo. Stuff. There we go. I like that better. All right. Binkin saying that they personally never play Debo, always missed when he hits. Yeah.
Fair.
Right.
He hits
then,
very rarely. Very occasionally.
Yes. Binkin saying that San Francisco showed us a trend all year. Yeah, kind of has. Binkin as well saying that Debo's been pampered the last few years and being injured shows declining, especially when he runs. Debo doesn't look like himself. And saying that Tyreek is still him. Okay.
But, No, you're good. Master Vader was...
Yeah, Jonnu.
It's Jonnu and not Jackson Smith. Okay.
Did you just get that?
Yeah.
It's such a child.
Well done. Anyways, I'd play Jonnu Smith in that case.
Yeah, Jonnu and DK.
That's good stuff right there. Well played.
All right. And then Binkin saying that this could be the week the Eagles need an A.J. Brown, especially in the red zone. Maybe. But we'll see what happens.
Oh.
Saquon gets it first crack. Hurts takes it from the 1. Like,
right.
You got to be careful about what you ask for in the red zone because there's a good chance that ball's getting ran in.
Yeah. The 10 to the 1 is all Saquon. So maybe you're hoping for a 15 to 20 yarder.
Yeah. It's a very precise touchdown. I'd be throwing odds on that.
Yeah. Fair enough. Michael over on YouTube saying, what are your feelings on non-playoff teams using the waiver wire?
I actually like this question a lot.
Yeah, so do I. Anybody want to take a crack at it? I know my stance on it.
As somebody who, well, first off, in the home league, everybody makes the playoffs. You just make the side that matters or the side that gets you the first overall pick the next year. We threw an incentive a few years back to avoid teams from tanking and not paying attention, right, the rest of the year, that the winner of the losers bracket gets the number 1 overall pick the following year. And I think that's a good way to still make some incentive for people who don't make the playoffs to continue to pay attention as the season goes on. As somebody who has won the losers bracket on more than one occasion, I was still using the waiver wire to still try and make things work for me. If you are engaged in your league, you should be rewarded. So I have no issue with non-playoff teams using the waiver wire, provided they have something to play for.
I would agree. I do not have an issue with non-playoff teams using the waiver wire. They're using the league rules to their benefit. They're not breaking any. It's not an unwritten rule. This isn't baseball, right? If you don't make the playoffs and your buddies make the playoffs and they're rubbing it in your face, guess what? This becomes screw your neighbor. And I'm going to do everything I can to try and put you down because not in or losing in the playoffs is ultimately the same thing in my book. Like, I take no consolation prizes. Either I'm first or I'm last, period. Like, I don't care. And so if I am not in the playoffs and I can use the waiver wire and take some top wanted free agent, and I know I can, guess what, Sally? He mine.
I love the
Yeah.
idea of not using your fab all season long and then just blowing it on week 1 of the playoffs on a dude that everybody needs. Like that.
I've
That's
done that
so
before.
good.
I've done that
like,
before.
I'm okay with that. Like, it's the
I am
rules of the
too.
league. There is no rule in the league settings that say non-playoff teams shall not use waiver wire as
As when you're
means
not in
to hide players from other teams. Like, it doesn't say any of that.
right.
So
It's part of
it
the
sucks,
gamesmanship.
but I'm all for it. Guess
Yeah.
what? Like, injuries happen. Yeah, those are bummers. But if you're going week to week to pick up a player for what you need that coming Sunday, you need to plan another week or two ahead.
Yep.
Like, you need to be a week in front of this. Now, we didn't see McCaffrey and Jordan Mason going down, right? Garendo was kind of an anomaly, but Garendo had still popped, right? He was not out of nowhere. We saw him pop a little bit beforehand. He just wasn't seeing the touches. So he was going to be the next guy up, period. Like, we saw this. You just lost him in both weeks. It makes it tough, but I don't care about the Isaac Garendo thing, picking up Isaac Davis, right? David from the Jets,
Davis.
right? I have no problem with you picking him up if you're trying to hose over the Brees Hall owner. Guess what? They should have been paying attention last Wednesday or whatever it was, day where they declared him out because he was doubtful going into Wednesday for sure, and that's when most waivers clear. So you had that information. Everybody had a chance to get him.
And if you snipe somebody, just type in the chat, sorry about your luck, and move on.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm also a big fan of using the waiver wire. If you're in the league, you can use the waiver wire, right? Like that's kind of my thoughts on that one. I like it for a couple of different reasons. One, the ones already mentioned, but two, I also like the fact that it keeps people engaged on that as well, and it makes the league stronger year over year, right? Because if you have people paying attention to fantasy football and how these things look, right? There's a lot of things that all of these folks come through and they start doing their rankings and all of that are really based on the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season that will move guys up or down and all of that. And it helps prepare for next season's draft on that one as well. And that's ultimately should be the goal of the league, is to make the league the strongest possible, most competitive, and the best. And one of the best ways to do that is to keep people engaged throughout the entire season on that one. And then, to Kevin's point on the, getting one over on your buddy. There was a few years back with some defenses in the home league where there was where there wasn't any options left to a guy that needed a defense to start in a playoff league, right? Like those things happen, and that again, all of that goes into some of that strategy. So
The biggest killer of a fantasy football league is apathy, and
right.
and the more opportunity you give people to check out and not care, the more they're just gonna not care, and that will kill the league.
Right. If you can let them play spoiler, and even if that spoiler is through the waiver wire, more power to them.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, great question, Michael. I like that one.
Yeah. Mario also thought it was a really good question too. So thanks for chiming in on that one, Mario. One Deer saying Rico is the safer play, but way more bust potential than AJ Brown.
I would argue that this week there is no more bust potential for Rico than there is AJ Brown. Now, if we're talking season long, yes, Rico has more bust potential, but specifically for week 15, there is no more bust potential for Rico than there is AJ Brown. And that's just due to the matchups.
Agreed. Dan over on YouTube. Hey, fellas, would you rather prioritize a waiver claim Pat Fryermuth or Zach Ertz? It's a half-point PPR. For what it's worth, Jaden Daniels is their quarterback, and they have a bye in the playoffs. Thanks. Thoughts on this one? Would you rather have Zach Ertz or Pat Fryermuth, knowing that this isn't for a week 15, this is for a week 16.
Well,
Let's
I
go
can,
take a peek.
I can pull up who those guys play in week 16. And I'll let you know.
Let's go take a peek. Fryermuth has the Ravens in Baltimore on a Saturday.
And
Ertz
as
has
Philly.
Eagles at
Philly.
home.
Whoa.
Yeah. I think I lean Ertz by the thinnest of margins. But I'm not sure I like it.
Ertz has probably the safer floor of the two of them. And I think you can reasonably kind of bet on that 4 for 40 on that one. If he gets into the end zone,
He
that's
was
upside.
tight end 6 when they played the Eagles in week 11.
It's true. And
You get the stack with Jaden Daniels. I kind of like it. I
and
like it more than anybody going up against the Ravens defense, especially when it's Pittsburgh and Baltimore,
fair enough.
where
And
there will be 10 points scored total.
Yeah, it could be. And fair enough. And the funny thing is about his week 11 performance that was number 6 tight end was 6 for 47 and a touchdown. So that 40-ish yards, that's about what you're going to get. It's all touchdown upside, and who you think's going to get more touchdowns there. I think Zach Ertz has a better shot. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, sir.
No.
Swaggy was saying that it is Brian Robinson, and it's a PPR league too. So thanks for that info there. Millie Mills saying Mooney, Reed, Shakir, or Shakir for the flex.
Shakir. With very strong consideration to Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, that's my very strong consideration.
Again, 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions from Kirk Cousins over the last month.
No. But
there is
Mooney's still seeing. If it's a PPR, Mooney is a. Did he say that? If it's a PPR, Mooney is a viable play here. They're at Las Vegas
versus Detroit for Shakir.
Or Shakir is playing Detroit in Detroit. Golly.
I lean at the Shakir side of this one. It is close though. But this is one of those that we could finally see Atlanta salt this game away and jump up by 14 points and just rely on the run and take the ball out of Cousins' hands, right?
Yeah, but I think they get up by that 14 by Kirk Cousins throwing a couple touchdowns. So
I think that Bijan Robinson has a whole lot to do with that. But and then we see a shift over to Tyler Algier salting the game away in the second half. But I lean Shakir just from the standpoint Buffalo, Detroit. I think that one's going to be a game that we might see that thing get close to touching a 60 burger on that one. I don't think we're going to see this one anything close to that in Atlanta and Vegas. That might be a 30 burger. Yeah. Any other thoughts there?
No, you talked me into it.
Okay. So it sounds like we're all leaning the Shakir by a hair.
And I'm not happy about that, but yeah.
You're doing it under protest.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yes.
All right. Michael saying thanks, Mario. Back to saying that was a good question. Swaggy Boo saying thank you. And follows that up with Wilson and Higgins, maybe Shakir, stay away from Reed. Yep, that's kind of the consensus there.
Yeah.
Swaggy saying that the only worry about Stevenson is New England has a bad offense and Rashad White is in a very good offense. Stevenson has burned me every week almost that I started him with bad games this year. LOL.
I mean, you can start White. You're just hoping for some catches to go along with it. Like, you need Rashad White to have 5 catches. Like, this Chargers defense is very good. They're playing at a high level right now. And not that Tampa Bay doesn't find ways to move the football. But you need Rashad White to have probably at least 4 receptions. You'd like to see 5 or more. But, if he can get 4 receptions for 35 yards, that might be enough to do it, knowing that he's probably only going to see 50 yards on the ground.
Here's the problem with Swaggy, that I take issue with Stevenson's burned you every week that you started him, because you probably
His
started
roster, how do
him.
you know that?
Well, here's what I'm saying, because you probably started him week 3 against New York when he had 6 carries for 23 yards. That was a bad week. Week 7 against Jacksonville, 7 carries for 18 yards. That was a bad week. And then 2 weeks ago against Miami, 8 carries for 13 yards. That was not a great week. But every other week that aren't those, he has had more than 40 yards rushing, double-digit carries, and he has put up really good points.
But how many catches does he have? Right? Because 40 yards doesn't do squat. It's 4 points.
Right.
Like, I get what you're saying, but this is my counterpoint.
So his last game, he had 18 attempts, 18 rushing attempts, 73 yards, 3 catches, 21 yards. It's over 100 total yards right there. He didn't find the end zone, and that's unfortunate. But like, the dude has just been, I don't know, he's been pretty consistent. So like, that's where I struggle with this idea that he's.
I'm okay switching to White. You know you're going to get 3 catches out of him, and you're hoping for 5.
But I'd still be starting Brian Robinson and Tony Pollard over either one of them.
Yes.
So, and here's the thing with the Rashad White, or not the Rashad, but the Ramondre Stevenson, right? Like, I can see where he's coming from, that he feels like he's may have been burned, because start him in weeks 3, 4, 7, or 12, right? Like, that could certainly feel like you got burnt. And if you had him in there as your running back 2, on that, any of the other weeks, right? Like, for the most part, it's been a very consistent back end RB2. So it hasn't really provided that upside or that swing, and you're just kind of holding ground at that point. Whereas, some of those other guys like Brian Robinson Jr., Tony Pollard, Rashad White, going off on the bench, putting up more points, certainly feels like you're getting burned on that one. And I can see where he's coming from on that one, but yeah, at that point, I'm still leaning Pollard and Brian Robinson Jr. over that. But I'd see where you're coming from, because outside of Ramondre Stevenson scoring touchdowns, which those games have been few and far between, it has been rougher on the fantasy side. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, White.
All right, awesome. Alex, any other thoughts there?
No.
All righty. Michael saying, okay, love listening to y'all. Big fan. Thanks so much for your time. The best. We appreciate you tuning in and chiming in, and appreciate all the interaction there.
Best of luck to you, sir.
Absolutely. Rock out over on YouTube asking, play Tua, Knicks, or Purdy. I'm leaning the Knicks side.
Bo Nix.
Yeah.
It's unanimous there. Dan, over on YouTube asking, is MVS droppable now, or should I hold him for one more week to see how car injury affects him?
In theory, he's droppable, but it always depends on what you're dropping him for.
Correct. If you're dropping him for a bag of rocks, that doesn't help out your fantasy roster.
Yeah. A backup kicker? No, I'd rather have MVS. Like a backup defense. I still think I'd rather have MVS for at least one more week. But if you can drop him for a skill position player, then I think that you could make a very strong argument that skill position player has a safer floor than MVS. Maybe not the ceiling, but a safer floor.
Correct. Alrighty. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
Rock out over on YouTube saying, got Ferguson and Pitts at tight end, would drop one of them for Juwan Johnson.
Drop Pitts and pick up Juwan Johnson. If you want to carry 2 tight ends, that's the way to go. And then you laugh and mock the poor owner who picks up Kyle Pitts and tries to play him in the playoffs as he gets a 2-burger. And then Fergie goes ahead and puts up a 13-burger. That's how you differentiate yourself in the playoffs.
That's the dropping a landmine strategy right there.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you.
He'd be off my roster so fast if this wasn't a freaking keeper league. Like,
There's so
the fact that I have to sit on him.
There's so few people that pissed Kevin off more than Kyle Pitts. Oh my God.
And this isn't the first year, isn't that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
2 years ago. Yeah, I didn't have him last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Whatever it was.
Oh man, it was
I'm done. Another guy, right? Add it to the list. I'm just making a list. Debo, Jaden Reed, Kyle Pitts. Do not draft. Like, I will find other options.
Holy smokes.
Just playing Cartman, man. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Yep.
I like it. Alrighty. Rock out saying that, but no car right now. That's back to the Juwan Johnson. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right.
Spencer Rattler's a baller, dude. Like, I know it wasn't the
Yeah.
greatest showing, but Rattler can sling it. And if Chris Olave still isn't back, like, he's got to throw it to somebody. The Saints are going to be trailing. So, Juwan Johnson doesn't scare me. I think he has just as high of a likelihood to have a solid game as anything else. And you're not playing Juwan Johnson, you're playing Ferguson. You're just picking Johnson up over Pitts.
Facts. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
Alrighty. White Tiger saying, sup, fellas. The 1-3 first round bye for
11,
them.
11-3.
Yes. What did I say?
1-3.
Oh, now that would be a problem. 11
1
and
3
3.
of the first round bye. White Tiger, get with me. I'd like to be a part of this league.
No, that's called Derek can't read. So that's a me bad. Alrighty. So White Tiger, congratulations on that one. Great job. Swaggy saying pick up Johnson, drop Pitts. That is what Kevin is arguing for there. Alrighty. Swaggy Boost, how are all your teams doing?
So most of our okay, here's my frustrating league. It's a work league. And it's $150 buy-in, and we pay out $50 a week to the highest point scoring team for that week. So, and then the rest of the pot is split between first and second place. So it's a fun league, right? You're playing for something every week. My team went 4-10. 4-10. I had Baker, I had Darnold, I had Tua, I had Achane, Derrick Henry, Tyreek, and Mike Evans, and I went 4-10 because I was second in points scored and first in points against.
Tell you what, man.
But I will tell you this. I made my money back because 3 out of the 4 victories, I was the highest scoring team. So all my frustration is for not. Like, okay, fine. It's not the greatest story, and I get that. But you know what? Sometimes breaking even is the victory. It was a really frustrating season for me in that league. And the fact that I can walk out of that league knowing that, you know what? I just did this year for free. Like, the frustration was free.
Yeah,
but I didn't have to pay for it. I'm able to step away. So that's probably my most frustrating league. Other than that, it's pretty good, right? Playoff bound in the home league, third seed, second in points. I think oh, good Lord, across the other ones, I mean, there was a lot of 8 and 9 win leagues as I kind of went through there. A lot of, there was 2 first place finishes. I don't think I had a single second place. A couple thirds, a lot of 4 through 6s, right? Like I just had a lot of 4 through 6s, whether it was injuries, bye weeks popped up on the wrong time. Like I have good, solid scoring teams. I like my chances in the playoffs. It's not a shoe in, but I like my chances. And we're off to it. And then there's a handful of leagues where, I didn't make it in a dynasty league, right? I mean, there were a couple leagues where I had a lot of buys in week 14. I was the 6th seed going in, and I got boat raced in week 14. Week 14 was not a good week for me. It was not. Buys, injuries, whatever. And it cost me, I think it cost me 5 different leagues worth of playoffs. So it was a pivotal week. And I just, with them being dynasty leagues, the waiver wires are bare. And so I did the best with what I had. And a couple I squeaked in, and a couple I didn't, right? We talked about this last week. In with some help, right? Like I'm in, but I need some help to really be in. Like I didn't get the help I needed. So, and that's just some. Overall, I'm happy with it. I'll tell you, playoffs and probably 65% at a 65% clip. If I add all the leagues together, I'm well above 500. Like, It's some years shake out, some leagues it doesn't shake out. It's all good, but that's part of the reason I play in so many, so I can never be too high or too low about what's going on.
Yeah.
Your experience in your work league is just a win against the median. That should be standard practice.
It's like, whatever works. Like
a win against the median there would have probably have served you well.
Oh yeah, wins against the median. I guarantee you I'd be in the playoffs in that league. Like,
Yeah. Alex, how are your teams faring there?
Of the three teams that I care about, which is the home league, a high school league, and a work league, I have qualified for the playoffs in all three. I'm not strong particularly in any of them. Derek and I are matching up in the first round of the home league. I am the 8 seed.
You're the 7 seed.
No, sorry. In my high school league, I am the 4 seed. Only 4 of us make it, and we do 2-week playoffs. And I outscoring the 1 seed, the guy who only lost once this year, and I think I was the guy who beat him. He only lost once this year, and I'm up on him in the first week of the playoffs, and then the work league kicks off. I squeaked in, and I said it earlier. I was able to make the playoffs despite taking Christian McCaffrey with the 101. So I'm very proud of myself for navigating that disaster this year and still qualifying for the playoffs.
Yeah, hell yeah. Sacrificing your first round pick basically and still being able to find a way in. That's
job well done.
Grinding, right? That's what we talk about. You have to grind through it, and sometimes this happens. And there's a lot of wide receiver pain this year outside of Christian McCaffrey, but the folks who picked in the top, 1, 2, maybe 3 spots who all grabbed McCaffrey, y'all had to grind. It was a rough year.
I feel like that is the theme of this year was just the wide receiver disappointment and attrition. Remember there was a couple years back where it was quarterbacks that were just getting hurt left and right.
Last year.
Just like, and it was just like, oh man, like we're gonna run out of quarterbacks. Like we played
like 69 or 70 different quarterbacks played Derek last year. Didn't we pull that number in an episode?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look it up, but it was a lot.
And so this year it feels like the theme was wide receivers dealing with injuries, not living up to expectations. It just was that was kind of the theme, I think, when we look back and kind of define this fantasy football season. It's going to be how much we all struggled, I think, at wide receiver on a consistent basis, because there certainly were some big weeks, and there have been big weeks recently. But man, it was not like that all year long. There wasn't really anybody who was like a consistent guy week in and week out. Even the guys that are at the top.
I'd tell you Jamar Chase has been pretty damn consistent.
Yes, and even still though, the first 3 weeks it was like, is he gonna play?
Justin Jefferson sans his week against the Bears.
Right.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, okay. There's been a few, but it's not been a lot, and it's been pretty rough. I especially like the wide receiver 2 area, right?
Well, Godwin was wide receiver 1 when he went down, right? Like that hurt. Rashee Rice actually before that was wide receiver 1 when he went down.
Yeah, it's like a curse. It's like the Madden curse almost.
Almost, right? So he went down, Godwin went down. Christian Kirk was not living up to expectations, but he was still seeing some relevant volume. He went down. Cooper Kupp had an amazing week, but him and Puka have both spent time down. Mike Evans hamstring down. George Pickens now hamstring down. Tua goes down, and Waddle and Tyreek get affected. Hell yeah. I mean, and really Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson.
And I would put to you that Amon-Ra St. Brown's been kind of a roller coaster.
I'm just talking about just being able to have just some sort of consistency, right?
Yeah,
Like you knew what you were getting with St. Brown a little bit because of Dan Campbell's playing style.
right.
He has top 2 ability on any given week, but realistically, he's a top 10 receiver because of those ups and downs.
Yeah.
I know that we have a few more questions in here, but I have to bow out graciously. So I will bid you all adieu because I have to be up super early again tomorrow morning. So I know you guys have a few more questions, but I'm gonna bow out. Gents, it's always great. Derek, I'll see you in the first round. Kevin, I'll see you in the next round.
Oh.
Bye, guys.
All right. Thanks. All righty. Let's hit up the next one here while Alex figures out the
I just tried to end the stream. That was bad.
That would have been a whoopsie daisy.
Not yet. I'll just go. I won't end it for everybody.
It's the other red button. All righty. Okay, let's go ahead and hit up this next question here. Dan over on YouTube. Last question for me tonight. Thanks so much. My running backs are Josh Jacobs, Pacheco, and Jaleel McLaughlin. Tight end is Evan Ingram. Knowing that, would you prioritize waiver wire claims Zach Ertz or Senior? Half point PPR with the bye week thing. With the bye week.
If you have the bye week, that means you're missing Evan Ingram playing the Jets. So I think you're okay with Evan Ingram. So I would look at Sincere and prioritize him over Zach Ertz.
Cosign. Yeah. All righty. White Tiger over on YouTube saying, sorry, what's your guys' opinion on Hurts Brown possible issue?
I think it's a slow news week, right? There's times where receivers and quarterbacks don't necessarily see the same thing on the field. And quarterback's a position where you're not really able to call that out, but wide receiver, they feel like they need to call that out for some reason. It's just, I think they'll work through it. I'm not worried about it. They're clearly on the way to win that division. They're going to be fighting for a potential first round bye in the playoffs. And they'll be all right. It's just been tough, right? I mean, why force it into a guy where they're there to win football games? So I get AJ Brown's frustration, but AJ Brown also hasn't been coming down with as many 50-50 balls this year. So he'd see more stats, right? If he's looking for statistics, well, his statistics would be better if he was coming down with some of these balls, but he's dropped not a lot, but just kind of more than normal for him. And it's cost him some catches, yards, a touchdown or two, over the course of the season. It happens. But AJ Brown needs to just worry about AJ Brown, and they'll be okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. William over on YouTube saying that they like the number of teams playing in week 14, or like the number of teams on bye in week 14. Yeah,
that means he got in because he played a team that had a bunch of them.
Yep. We went on a whole diatribe on that much earlier in the show, but yes, for some folks it was a little tough there. Eric over on YouTube, defense made the playoffs with a bye to start it off. Should I drop either Pittsburgh defense or Packers defense for the Chargers defense off waivers rest of the season?
I'm keeping Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So I'd drop the Packers for the Chargers if you want to carry two defenses.
I would agree, right? Like I think Pittsburgh and LA are two top 5 defenses rest of the season. Is how I kind of got that. All righty. Terry, he's also assembling a do not draft players in 2025, right along with you, Kevin. On his, he's got Breece Hall, AJ Brown, Debo, DK, Lamb, Murray, Kenneth Walker, Pitts, ETN, and Kincaid. That is a list that he's got going there for sure. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't hate Breece Hall or CeeDee Lamb the way that Terry seems to. I can completely get behind Pitts and ETN and Debo. I don't have AJ Brown. Like for some reason, he's just never a guy that I really draft. So I don't have a feeling about AJ Brown one way or the other than I know his stats are way down from last year, so I can understand the frustration there. DK has been a bit of a disappointment. I thought he was going to have a really good season, and he hasn't. But JSN's really stepped up to kind of be that kind of the new number one there in Seattle. Murray, I'm assuming you're talking about Kyler. Kyler's had a couple down weeks, but Kyler's just kind of been Mr. Consistent also, like aside from those down weeks. He just hasn't gotten you the pop, right? Like you haven't seen the Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow-esque week out of Kyler Murray. You're getting kind of the consistent version of Patrick Mahomes out of Kyler Murray. Like, so it's, again, you're missing the upside, but I wouldn't say he's been a terrible fantasy quarterback. You're just missing some of those monster weeks that we have kind of grown accustomed to seeing from him.
Right. I mean, he's the top 10 quarterback. That's kind of where you were drafting him in most cases, was kind of that QB 8, 9, 10 in that range. And funny that you should mention Patrick Mahomes. He's, Kyler's put up more points than Mahomes has this season. So, yeah, interesting. Swaggy over on YouTube saying the NFL would send the Chiefs to waiver wire. They're certainly trying to come week 19.
Right.
Chris over on YouTube saying 10-4 in playoffs, 12 person PPR, start one in the flex, B-Rob versus New Orleans, Jennings versus the Rams, London versus Las Vegas.
Ooh.
As much as the gut, like the initial gut reaction is, it's Drake London, right? But like over the last few weeks, that it would be a really rough start, kind of going there.
Are you willing to bank your fantasy playoffs on Juwan Jennings?
I'm not, no. So for me, it comes down to either Brian Robinson or Drake London.
So I would lean Drake London in any type of PPR format over Brian Robinson Jr.
Yeah, I would agree. And then B-Rob would be my second, and then Juwan Jennings after that.
I can get behind that.
Okay. Terry saying AJ Brown should have had 2 touchdowns last week. Hurts can't process consistently. He's a tush-push scoring son of a gun.
He doesn't call that play. He just runs it.
Right? It's very true. It's very true. So.
And that, again, they're trying to win games. That is a much more successful, and the likelihood of success on the tush push is far greater than running a fade from the 2-yard line.
Yes.
Like, I get it, but again, these are things that I don't find super surprising. Annoying, yes. Frustrating, absolutely. Surprising, no. Like, until teams can consistently stop the Eagles from inside 2 yards, whether it's for a first down or a touchdown, they're going to continue to run the tush push. So defensive coordinators need to get creative and figure out a way to stop it. And then they'll throw on some of those 3rd and 2s instead of just pushing through it.
Right. Chris saying another league 10-4, also in the playoffs, 10-man, half-point PPR. Pick one for the flex. Grendo versus Las Vegas. Debo versus the Rams. Debo's immediately out for me. Sutton, Jonathan Taylor, and I'm not sure who Broby is.
Brian Robinson.
Okay.
I'm going Sutton. We like Nick so much, he's got to throw the ball to somebody, and Sutton's been Mr. Consistent for him. So I'm going Sutton.
Yeah.
Against Indianapolis.
Sutton certainly has been it's kind of had that like very sneaky getting into the kind of the top 10 for fantasy this season at the wide receiver. So I'm right there with you. I think that it's Sutton, and that's the way I'd like to go down swinging if I have to go swinging. William over on YouTube, they saying they drafted a team of bust, Taylor, Laporta, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Stroud. That is a rough draft roster for sure. Any thoughts on that?
No, that's tough. It's tough.
Terry saying, okay, I'll say this: if you draft Hurts, don't draft any other Eagles skilled player. Fair enough. LOL. Except for Saquon.
Because I'd take Saquon. I'd
Yes.
take Saquon and Jalen.
In fact, some of the leagues that I have managed to make that pairing on, I'm very, very happy with.
Yeah, I'd
So,
take that pairing in a heartbeat. But yeah, I find no need to stack Jalen Hurts. So to like pass catchers, right? Like I do not find the need to stack Jalen Hurts with a pass catcher. So I I would agree with that going into 25. If you're targeting Jalen Hurts, don't worry about a pass catcher. So either you get Saquon and that's what you want to roll with, or you don't get Saquon and then you just stay away from all the other Eagles and call it good. So in a sense, I understand what you're saying. And yes, pass catchers I'd stay away from, but I would absolutely draft Saquon in the first and Jalen in the third. Like if that's how you want to start your roster, you know,
I don't have a problem with that.
give her hell. Saquon, Malik Neighbors, and Jalen Hurts. Like, I mean, you could see that as a big combination in 25, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Brunson over on YouTube, start Braylon/Davis or Pacheco. It's Pacheco for me.
Cosa, Pacheco.
Alrighty. Well, and I do believe that that's going to take us down here to about the end of it. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Good luck, right? I mean, you guys have done so much work to this point, right? And the fruits of your labor are the opportunity to play for fantasy football championship, which is a big part of the reason we do this, right? Yes, it's fun. Yes, there's some camaraderie. Yes, there's some trash talking, but ultimately we do this to win, right? Like no one just plays fantasy football for fun. Like it's fun, but we want to win. So good luck to everybody in week 15. Congratulations to the teams who have a bye that you don't have to worry about it. So we'll talk to y'all again in week 16 as we have a new set of information that we're going to be kind of dealing with. But keep after it. Hit us up on the socials at Good Old Boys FF. We'll get back to you as soon as we can with any sort of assistance that we could provide, whether it's a lineup question or a waiver wire question. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate y'all.
All righty. Yeah, I would agree with that. Terry, say one last thing. He's not a fan of Brees Hall. Period. End of story. Terry has made that point. Hail.
Mic drop.
He's a big fan of Kyron Williams, though. Good night, fellas. Terry, as always, a pleasure seeing you in the chat and the comments. William giving us the thumbs up and the peace sign there. So again, right, like you said, right, it's all about week 15 and the playoffs start now, and it's 3 weeks to a championship. Here we go. Ready, set, let's do it. It's all about that cash and trophy smarch at this point. So do appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. It's always a lot of fun getting to interact with everybody in the chat there. A couple of programming notes, right? The Kevin and I'll be back on the Friday night show, 11 p.m. Eastern for the Fantasy Football Huddle there. Then next Tuesday, same time, 11 p.m. Eastern. We've got the change coming up with the holiday week there, where we'll be moving the show from Tuesday the 24th to Monday the 23rd on that one. And then that Friday, the 27th, is the last Fantasy Football Huddle going into week 17 for the Friday night show. And then, again, we go live all off season, year round on the Tuesday show. So hope we see everybody keep tuning in and getting to chat and discuss that all with y'all. And a couple of last comments here. White Tiger saying good luck, y'all. And Mario saying thanks for the discussion. Good luck and good night. But that's going to do it for us. Appreciate everybody tuning in. For the good old boys, Alex already is signed off, but he's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.